know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it a back day. Yeah, I got game, got in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it turnpike miles. Yeah, it's Google signing on, John to the Hancock, and I'm always key, I'm ready to unlock. I be doing big things.
Welcome back, everyone, to the newest edition of Once a Week. I'm Billy Generalizations. You know him already, guys, Peter Panopoulos. We put a ton of videos out together. You can go through our archives and see every one because he's brought so much knowledge and wisdom to the table. I'm so happy he's here. He is the traveling teacher. Peter, I'll pass off to you, man. Go over that in just a little bit. But today, guys, we got an incredible message. Peter, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. Peter Panopoulos from A Traveling Teacher, education site that focuses on helping kids through school and pursuing their passions. And yeah, thanks again for having me.
Of course, no. And guys, as you know, Peter's been a recurring guest on the show. Every month or so, we put another message out there because when we get together, the knowledge is rolling. We want to bring you something that you can take, you can run with, you can learn from. You can start to see yourself, but you can also start to see the world from a whole different perspective, a higher perspective for that matter. So today, we wanted to get together and go over something that I know every single one of us either is facing, has faced, or will face, because it's something I've faced from day one, from starting out doing Once a Week, from starting out my business, from starting out and speaking to new audiences. There is always someone that generalizes me, maybe generalize you, maybe Peter, maybe kids today, off of age. And that's something that I've been able to let go of, but it will always be out there. And why I wanted Peter here for this message today is because he gets to work with the next generation. He gets to work with kids. He gets to work with people who are truly wanting and pursuing and at least finding out what that dream is they want to bring to this world. And when you do that, you know as well as anyone else, doubters start to show up. People start to show up that really sit there and say, you can't do that. You're too young. Wait till you're older. I've heard that from day one. But I'm seeing it now after being seasoned in the industry, after learning, after growing myself, growing my business to a certain level, where my confidence is starting to grow in what I knew all along I could bring to the world. And then for that age and that generalization where you're too young, wait till you're older, continues to pop up. For me, I look at that now with humble eyes, but I look at that also that so many of us today still have a lack of belief in young people. We generalize young people based off of their age and completely overlook what they truly bring to the table. Is that because we do not give them the opportunity to bring something to the table? We do not give them the opportunity to see who they truly are? Or is it something else? So Peter, I know that's a whole lot that I just started with, but do you see that with the kids you work with?
I definitely see a lot of that. I think that it's important to understand that kids, like I've mentioned in other podcasts as well, kids teach adults so much more than we give them credit for. And it's really amazing to feel and see what it is that what it is that sparks them internally, right? And it can get squashed a lot of the times, and limiting beliefs can definitely be put on anybody in general, but definitely kids. Mm-hmm. And I feel as though these sparks that we look at, we have to take the time and let them grow.
Yep.
And yes, wait till you're older, wait till you're this, wait till you're that. It's my brother, for example, he's been programming since he was a kid.
Yep.
And we talk about that all the time because it's something that he really loved, he really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
All these different aspects of technology and computers and all of that, and it's gotten him to where he is today.
Yeah.
And he's 30 years old, and he can run circles around a lot of people when it comes to the stuff that he just did back in the day, right?
Yeah.
And if you think about it, it's this idea. If you say, okay, wait until you're older, but then what?
Yep.
Right?
Right.
If say that Dino started at 20 instead of 10 to do these little Flash video games and Java and all these things that interested him so much. If he waited another 10 years, then he'd be 10 years farther from where he is today.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's not a matter of age, it's a matter of desire. It's a
Yeah.
matter of showing somebody that it is possible, showing a younger person, it's like, hey, listen, if you want to do something like this, you have to go and do it. You have to fail. You have to try these different things, but it's not, to me, I totally agree with you. It's not age related. And I do have a question for you. How young were you when you wanted to, or when you realized you wanted to pursue something like this?
I tell this in my seminars and whatnot. Probably from about 2 years old, I wanted to help people nonstop. I wanted to have a mic in my hand probably around the age of 8 years old.
Wow.
And I started, I'm writing a book on this, but this is how we find our purpose in life. I know I'm going to go off on a rant, but I always tell this where when I was 2 years old, my family lost me at the beach. And so they were running around yelling, Billy, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? And the funny thing is that eventually they found that I was 20 yards to the right of them, helping a little girl whose sandcastle fell apart. She's bawling her eyes out. Billy comes there, wants to help her. So I sit there and I'm like, all right, that sticks out to me because I've always wanted to, I didn't know how, but I always wanted to help people from day one. All right, put that in the memory bank right there. Flash forward 8 years old or whatever, where a mic really kind of started to pop up. And I'm sitting on the couch with my grandfather. We're watching wrestling. And my family, diehard wrestling fans. Always have been. Just what my dad grew me and my brother up on. And it's hilarious. And I can remember sitting there with my grandfather vividly. And he got upset at the TV for that matter, because they were doing a promo. They were talking on the mic. One guy with the mic was probably The Rock or Stone Cold at the time, capturing everyone's attention. One person. And I'm sitting there, and I was wowed by that. And he was getting upset. He goes, when are they going to get to the wrestling, the physicality aspect? And I remember, 8 years old, I can remember the thought crossing my mind at the time. I actually really like when one guy can captivate an entire audience, an entire auditorium, an entire building, one person's voice. Flash forward, I am where I am now because those two pivotal points stuck out to me. So it's always been there. The desire, the passion has always been there. The dream has always been there. And then following it is what allowed the image, the vision to come to fruition. So I bring up your brother now, where if he's been pursuing this, like you said, 10 years old, he started it then. Now he's found success out of it. That's something we diminish in kids now more than ever. We diminish in people. It's not just kids. Actually pursuing what's on your heart to do. And if we start early, we get there, but we learn so much more in the process. To tell someone, wait till you're older, you're waiting on the knowledge, the wisdom, the joy that comes from trying and succeeding, and the joy that comes from trying and failing and getting up again. But it's been there from day one for me, for that matter. Of what I wanted to do.
It's amazing. These little, just as we've spoken about in different podcasts, we have to listen to that inner voice, and the less that we do, the quieter it gets. And what happens, I feel, as though we are actually passing that along to the younger people as well. The fact that I don't listen to this as much as I should. I don't listen to this inner voice as much as I should. Now I can't really hear it a lot of the times. And, it starts to become this sort of fantasy that, oh yeah, that inner voice, people talk about that all the time, but I don't really hear it anymore. And so, basically telling a kid, hey, grow up, it doesn't work like that. Right? And we get into these monotonous things that do not push us towards our passion, whether it is to just pay the bills or to feel accepted within the community around us. And again, it really is important to harness that listening of that inner voice from a very young age. And understanding that it's not always going to be fun. It's going to be hard. But again, and I've said this before, if it's not hard, is it worth it? You can, a lot of people just float through life and they get to an older age and they're like, you know what, I should have done something different. I wish I did this differently. And it's just something that we really have to focus on here. And I'm really glad we're bringing it up today, because it's a very important aspect of societal change that begins with the self. And that's where change begins for everything.
Right. Yeah. You bring up an incredible point where we have to start listening to that inner voice. And it's funny. I had a session yesterday with a client, and he's 21 years old, 22 years old right now. Phenomenal kid. I shouldn't call him kid. Phenomenal man. He's grown in. He's pursuing himself, and he just went through hell week with work. He's an electrician. Doesn't really want to be an electrician, but he's pursuing it because it fits the bill. It pays the bill right now. It's what his family told him to do. So he's like, you know what? I'm gonna give it a shot. And he was put on nights for 12-hour shifts at night. And I've been an electrician. I've been on nights. It's not fun at all. And he's experiencing that now. And when I'm your coach, I'm in your pocket all the time. So he's texting me going into work, driving into Boston. He's texting me when I'm awake now, but he's going to bed in the early morning, and he's just trying to get this off his chest. He doesn't want to do this anymore. It's eating away at him. I kept bringing up, man, we go through these tough times to really show us what it is we want, and you got to figure out what is it you want to do that is not this. What do you want to bring to the world? I know he's going to do something incredible with wildlife. He's just got a heart for animals, dogs, everything like that. I know he's going to follow that. But the struggle with that is that he's hearing it from every other voice outside of me, outside of himself, outside of the voice, telling him, no, do this until you're safe. And then when you're older, give something else a shot. And I love it. I can agree with that. You want to protect someone, you want to play it safe, as every rightful adult and parent should do. I'm not going to say no to that whatsoever. But you have to allow time where you can try what it is that's on your heart. You have to give it a shot. And yesterday we're going over it in our session, and we're going for a walk for it, and he's telling me, I agree with you. I think this hell week showed me that I'm meant for something more. I'm like, yes, you are.
And you really, again, he's listening to it.
Yep.
And you are encouraging him to go and take that step. Right. And again, it's very, very difficult. We talk about this all the time. It's very difficult with the people around us. I'm not saying all the people around us, but the majority of people around us are just like, that's a little off from the norm.
Right.
Just keep doing what you're doing.
Yep.
It's just but at the same time, I would say this. We are human beings. We desire and require a safety net, some sort of safety, shelter, and whatnot. The question is, in this day and age, are people overextending themselves with the pay that they are having, right? Are they going into these expensive apartments? Are they buying a new car? Are they buying all these new things? This materialism that is truly also holding people back, because you have no ability to create some sort of nest egg for yourself, right? In order to be able to take a leap.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of different factors here, but at the same time, if you feel as though this is something you have to do, what are you also willing to sacrifice aside from the community around you disagreeing with what you are deciding to do? And then, also maybe maybe you have to move in with a bunch of people and just save a lot on rent. There are things that you need to sacrifice in order to be able to go and do the things you want to do.
Yeah.
Because as you and I both know, you work for free a lot of the time, right? In the beginning, when you're growing something, you work for free because you have this vision. You say, all right, well, yes, I'm not getting paid right now, but this is an investment for the future for me to have a portfolio of things from a very young age, so that when you go to somebody and say, hey, this is what I do, they say, well, you're too young. Why are you doing that? You're just like, well, yeah, but let me show you all of this.
Right.
And they go, wow. When I left teaching, when I left the final public school that I was at, the superintendent asked to meet with me, and he's like, so what are you doing? I'm like, I'm leaving on a motorcycle trip. I'm selling everything. And he looked at me and he said, first of all, good for you. Yep. This is something that just sounds like it is you, and it's something that you should be doing. And shout out to Dr. Gudikans, because he is definitely somebody that is high up in districts and yet can kind of see things for what they are. That's cool. I think that's a really cool thing. And it was a really good last conversation to have before leaving the system.
Nice.
But he also said, if you ever decide to come back, I'll have a job for you. I'll have a job waiting for you. And now, why is that an awesome thing? Number one, it's an encouragement from an outside person saying, you know something, go do this because it's something that I feel as though you definitely need to do, and I have your back in the future. Maybe it wasn't even for that district. Maybe it was for another district, but he would be willing to. He saw the work that I did, and he'd be willing to kind of put his name out there to say, "Hey, we got to get this kid another job," if it were to be the case, right?
Yeah.
And it's yeah.
No, I love that. I think that's awesome. And a new point comes across my mind. Everything that we're talking about right now, a younger person taking a chance on themselves, an older person taking a chance on themselves, and really stepping away from the limiting beliefs of their environment, the limiting beliefs of society, whatever it is. At the end of the day, what that comes down to is your own perception of your own self-worth. How much is it to you to take a shot on yourself? How much is your passion, your dream, for you to realize, you know what? I want it. I'm going to do it. And when you come to that decision, I said it in our last podcast, the only option is to succeed.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of life, taking a chance on yourself and realizing that you will not fall. You may go down and then fly, but that's the point of taking a leap of faith. And, I said to my client yesterday, there's literal studies being done. When you do not pursue your passion and you say, put it on the back burner and you never pick it up again, it eventually eats away at you. It sits in the back of your mind. It sits in the back of your conscious, your subconscious, and your unconscious mind. And if you don't try to do something towards that, you're never feeding that part of you, it turns into stress. It turns into depression. It turns into pain literally in your heart. The body is affected by us not taking a chance and growing in some regards towards this dream that has been put on us. And I say put on you because I believe everyone's purpose, passion, dream, goal in life, that was given to you to take a step towards. And it's on us as creators. I call us creators because we're created in the image of a creator. If we're creators in this world, all right, that means what is it I get to create? Whatever was put on my heart to do. Helping people was my goal. It was my option. It was what it lights me up inside. A fire is lit every single time I get to step into a podcast, step into a coaching session, step in front of an audience, step into a one-on-one session with a stranger for that matter, and just have a great conversation because they leave there better and I leave there better. Why not pursue that? That was always on my heart. Passing it back off to you right now, and you get to work with the young population, more than I do. When you're in that zone where you get to help them hear the voice that your superintendent did for you, that blessed I get to be for some of my younger clients, when you're in that role and you tell them, hey, you know what, like we're going to say it's math, you're doing them wrong, whatever it is, we're going to work on that. But then they get into a deep conversation with you about themselves and what they're dealing with and what's happening. And you get to be that voice of reason. And you get to spark them, inspire them, and say like, hey, you know what? If you want to go do it, go for it. You want to travel the world? Let me tell you, I did it, and it was the best decision I did for my life. How often does that get to pop up for you?
It's really cool and that is really something I do miss about the public schools, and I've mentioned that before, is just this relationship with the kids where you're with them 180 days a year.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the school days are long. They'll come in, pop into the room, and just they're always around.
Yeah.
And they're always popping in, and they're always talking, and you can really see when somebody is just kind of talking, and then when it moves to this deep talk of, hey, this is something, and they're just talking about it.
Yeah.
And you can see the room change, and you can see everything change. And again, kind of going back to what we were talking about before, that's on the same topic here of the inner voice is something that is pretty loud in younger people, and that can get squashed in the future for whatever reason it may be. I feel as though I mentioned that older people sometimes tend to look at that as though it is an imaginative, as though it is something that no longer exists because they don't listen to it anymore.
Yeah.
One of the very first books that I read that really sparked just something humongous inside of me was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
Okay, yeah.
And if you haven't read that, I really encourage you to do so because is something that it's a fictional story,
Yep.
and it is something that lit me up to the point of realistically being about 40 to 50% of the reason I actually went and did my trip.
That's awesome.
And because it resonated with me so much
Yeah.
on what I was feeling about travel, about pursuing what he calls your personal legend. And this is the personal legend piece of what we talk about all the time as well. It's just something that's spoken differently. And it was so, you notice in this fictional story that Paulo Coelho does. He talks about the ups and the downs and all of the failures, and listening to those omens and that inner voice. And it is something that is just so amazing. And so, the reason I say that is because when somebody younger is telling you about their personal legend, about the thing that is inside of them, you have to encourage it. And you have to say, even though it could be just imagination, and hey, wouldn't it be cool if, treat it as though it is something that will come.
Right.
And it really lights them up and shows them you're planting a seed in an arid field around them that is really going to help them grow.
Yeah.
And really going to help them grow in the right direction.
Yeah.
Right? Because as I mentioned in the last podcast, you can push against the grain and create something for yourself that maybe wasn't really supposed to be meant for you. Or you can really pigeonhole yourself into a lifestyle that is going to lead to regrets in the future.
Yeah.
Just like the electrician that's working nights right now. By the way, I don't know how anybody does nights.
Yeah,
I don't know how you
exactly.
did nights. I need my sleep.
Yeah.
I need my 7 hours, and I give props to anybody who can do that. But let's say he does that. Let's say he continues down that path, and yet the animals and the zoology and the nature things are what is really just screaming at him in the beginning. You go, you start a business, you do all these things, and then the time starts to kind of run out because your life gets jumbled with all of the things that you are setting in that direction. And again, it's not a bad thing. Maybe in the future, like, something, yeah, that is, something that I wanted to do, but now I have this business. I've created freedom for myself, if that is the direction and whatnot. You never know.
Yeah.
But I will say this. What I've noticed in everybody around me is that the dreams of parents, the unfulfilled dreams of parents, get passed down to children.
For sure.
And when the parents, when their unfulfilled dreams go to the next generation, because it's just what they're speaking, that inner voice is still there.
Yeah.
That inner reality is still there, and you're speaking it to the next generation. And yet you're basically showing them, hey, this was my dream, without directly saying it.
Yeah.
But then you're potentially squashing them and saying, but no, let's go this way.
Yeah.
Right? But that is the most fascinating thing that I want everybody around you, everybody listening to this, I really want you to observe this from the people around you. Observe close family, friends, observe the parents, and what their children are doing or what they are working towards. And it's so fascinating to kind of see that.
Yeah. Do you get to, I see this a lot in young people, but do you get to see in your role parents that did achieve their dream and the impact it has on their son or daughter, and then parents that might not have and then pass it on, as you just said, or that didn't and then diminish the child's?
I've seen a lot of different things. I've seen one person that's very special to me that wasn't able to kind of go pursue their dreams because of whatever reasons from their parents, right?
Yep.
And for them to be such a ball of light, and you know who you are, such a ball of light towards my generation, my brother and myself, to be able to say, I wasn't able to do that on my own, but I am able to invoke a light and an empty space for my children to actually go be able to pursue that.
Yeah.
And that is something that, if you're a parent listening to this, that is the biggest gift you could possibly give your children, is to take that adversity of the fact that you were not able to go do the things you really wanted to do in life because of whatever, and turn it around and make it an opening for your children to actually go and succeed.
That's awesome.
And I'll say that one because that one's really important to me. And then on the other hand, yes, you see it all the time. You see people who go, you see people who are they haven't achieved their dreams, and they just they are just sitting there telling their kids, you know what, this is go to the 9 to 5
Yeah.
and just live a normal life.
Yeah.
And again, is it a bad thing? There's really no good or bad. It's just where everybody is, generationally speaking and individually speaking.
Right.
But yeah, and then you have the people who, I mean, honestly, take a look at like Steve Irwin, right, from our past.
Yeah.
Take a look at his kids.
Right.
Take a look at how passionate they are about doing those things, because Steve Irwin lived his dream till his last moments.
Right.
And then his kids saw the light and the spark that he had inside of him glowing around him. He saw they were able to see the impact on everybody that Steve Irwin saw around him was positively impacted by that man.
Yeah.
And they're able to say, wow, he lived in the moment, in himself, in his personal legend, as Panopoulos says it, in all of these things, and he lived a happy life.
Right.
It was cut short, unfortunately, but it was there.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Oh, I love that. And you know what I find is, regardless of age of client, I've had clients in their 60s. I've had clients that, you know, coaching clients young as 20, but mentoring clients 7, 8, 9, 10, all these others. I've worked with every single age group. And the older clients always come to me, at least when I started, and they were just like, yeah, we'll throw Bill a bone. We'll take a chance on him. And you know, I'm appreciative of that, but then they left those sessions better than before. And the beauty of that is that me pursuing my passion, pursuing my dream, inspired them to pick the ball back up again, regardless of age. And I will forever hold that standard, where I don't care how old you are. You could be in your 60s. Heck, before my grandfather passed away, I would still ask him, what do you want to do? Because it was a matter of, it brings life back to you.
Yes.
But to watch someone else, as you mentioned, Steve Irwin, and then his kids then took over the mantle and pursued it. When you pursue what's on your heart to do, you inspire others around you. Inspire stems from the root word throughout history of in spirits, meaning something inside you, inside your heart, is invigorated to pursue something more for yourself because you watch someone else pursue something more for themselves. That, to me, is the heart of any matter. And when we start to do that for us, or start to see someone else do it, it's the ripple effect for sure, but it ignites a fire.
Yes.
You know, there's an age-old video. It's one of the first once-a-week videos out there. You can tell by the camera. You can tell by the speaking ability. But the message of that, I know for a fact, I said it, was me pursuing this as starting a bonfire. Because it's a bonfire in the sense of me pursuing is building my fire, but then it starts to ignite others around. It's like these little candlesticks start to ignite because all these people are being inspired to pursue more of what's on their heart to do. It's the basis of this message, where you're never too old. I said it to a guy on the phone the other day. He's in his 70s, and he was judging me and disrespecting me, believe it or not, off of my age and what I'm pursuing. And I stay humble and kind. I was raised that way. I believe that at my core, and I'm taking it all in. And I'm laughing inside because I'm like, you are never too old to learn, and you are never too young to teach. And if you pursue that concept, I don't care how old you are, pick the ball up again. I don't care how young you are, learn to pick the ball back up and see where it gets you in life. Because if you start early, you get to live out your dreams longer. So why would we tell people wait till you're older? Experience is one thing. Knowledge is another. Wisdom is another. All come together the more you take steps towards yourself. But start now. Tell your kids start now in some regards. If they're school, phenomenal. If they're college, phenomenal. If they have an entrepreneur's heart, feed that fire. Help them. Self-learn with them. Help them understand what they can invest in to grow more knowledge so they can start to take steps for themselves. But that's the beauty of being in that role that we keep talking about. If a kid doesn't know that still small voice is in there, as it gets louder, as we're talking about, at a young age, it's much louder, and then society comes in, environments come in, and it gets real small. The more we listen to that voice inside of us, the more it grows. But if they don't even know that's there, that's the adult's role, that's the parent's role, that's whoever it is. I hate to say this, because in this day and age, there's a lot of terrible things happening to kids. There's a lot of bad things coming. And And not even just a physical standpoint, but a spiritual and emotional standpoint, because we are now telling kids to put their dreams away and pursue whatever society tells them to do. I will never listen to that. You know?
No, definitely. And kind of going back a little bit, I talked about The Alchemist. Is there a piece of, is there a book? Is there a video? Is there a person? Is there something that sparked you in the way that book sparked me?
Mm. There's definitely been so much. Back when I was pursuing all this and really kind of sparked it, I can remember this vivid moment where Les Brown, incredible, one of the world-renowned speakers. If you don't know Les Brown, look him up. His stories, his messages will absolutely inspire you. And I can remember I was in such a terrible place for myself, dark place and everything, going through some form of depression in high school, most likely related to girls, whatever it was, and heartbreak and all that kind of stuff. And I remember being on the way home from the gym, and I put this message on. And to give you some of Les Brown's story, he was raised believing that he was mentally retarded. And because the teachers just told him he was.
Wow.
Because he was too afraid to get up and go around the board when he was asked to. So they thought he was just mentally retarded. And then very much like your superintendent story, the principal of the school pulled him aside. He's like, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I don't know." And he goes, "What's your name?" Les Brown, sir, blah, blah, blah. And they have this great conversation. And the principal basically tells them, or his teacher basically tells them, you can do everything every single one of these kids is doing, but you got to believe in yourself. And it goes on a little bit further. He starts to go up, and his grades start to increase. His confidence starts to increase in himself. And then he joined certain clubs in school. He's starting to get out of his shell a little bit more. Still not seen as the confident person he believed he was by his peers, by his teachers, everyone like that. And a speaker came to the school to impact the audience and everything like that. And the whole message is like telling the kids, like, who's going to be the one to change everything? Who's going to be the one to stand up for yourself, to stand up for those around you and lead the charge, essentially. And that impacted Les Brown, hearing that, to where as a kid, that started the fire for him. And then you flash forward to probably at this point, 30, 40 years later, when I'm listening to that for the first time in one of my darkest moments. And all I had, again, every single heartbreak moment, every single pain, depressing moment, all this, everything that I've been through, always will come back to the one thing I will always have is the dream that I'm pursuing. Things might fade, people might fade out of your life, but you will always have what's in your heart. And so I started, again, broken. I'm pursuing, all right, well, how can I pursue my dream now? So in high school, in this pain, I'm trying to do this. I heard this message, and I can remember hearing, I'm the one. I'm the one. And I started to cry hearing that. Tears come down my face because I felt this fire in me ignite, because I knew what was on my heart was going to get shown to the world, inspiring audiences, impacting audiences. I'm the one in my story. You're the one in your story. And when you're impacted by that, that had to be what started my pursuit at such a young age, because no one else believed in me, but Billy believed in Billy. And when that's the case, to this day and age, it's more so, it's like, all right, naysayers, doubters, whoever you are, see ya. Because doubters cannot take away the belief I have myself. Yeah. By listening to, connecting the dots, that still small voice that told you, you're the one. You can do this. Get up, keep going. I know you're in pain right now. I know you're hurting right now. I know there's things in your life that you want, that the world might tell you you need. It's okay. Those will come, but you need to get up and get walking. From that point on, let's go. Les Brown.
Yeah, that's amazing. And in a previous podcast, I mentioned how the body gets old, and yet everyone still thinks that they are very young, and how I thought that points to the soul. And I feel as though the soul, me personally, I do believe in things beyond this human life that we're living. I believe in past lives. I believe in the fact that we've probably been here more than once.
Yep.
And I feel as though everyone, that inner voice is that soul and has lived towards the thing that eventually it will be showing to the people around them. and hopefully, it takes work, it takes time, it takes things to really process and understand and wade through the blockades in your life that will get you to the moment where it is that you can actually speak these things to be truth. And it's again, it's very important to listen to that as much as possible on the road. Anytime I've been thinking about this lately, anytime I talk about the motorcycle trip, I'm just gonna say one time at band camp, because one time at band camp I was in the middle of nowhere and I just didn't understand what it was that I had to do to get through this. And you have to just, for me, the biggest thing that helped me during those times was just sit, take a deep breath, and just relax. And when you relax and you start thinking about all the options, the good and the bad, and how am I going to get out of this, eventually, you end up finding a solution. And it is, again, all it is listening. It's giving 50-50. It's 50-50. It's giving to the universe and allowing the universe to give to you. Right? But that takes surrender. That takes time. That takes pain. That takes the full spectrum of emotions for you to be able to truly access that within yourself at moments that you need it most. At forks in the road where you say to yourself, well, now what? I could do this, I could do that. You just sit there, you think about it. Sometimes it takes a while, not necessarily on the road, but in life in general. Sometimes it takes a while. You got to sit on things for a few days, a week, a month, a year. Before you're like, no, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. And again, it all comes down to surrendering, pushing forward, and listening. And all those three together can sound paradoxical, right? And yet, for me, this whole thing is a paradox, right? And we just have to go with it as best as we feel, and move on into the direction that we're looking to go.
Ooh. There's so much there, and I want people to rewind that and listen to everything Peter just said, because it can look like a paradox, I believe that's how life works, where we have to put effort in. I believe that. That's what he means by pushing. At some point, you're going to have to push forward. You're going to have to take some action. You have to move forward. But then you have to surrender and allow life, allow God, allow the universe to really kind of bring the pieces together. And that's probably the toughest thing for a lot of us to do now. But the more you can step into that surrender, allowing and letting go zone, phase, it's, oh my goodness, the stress fades. You can finally hear yourself again. You can hear your mind. You can hear that voice again. But, I believe in everything Pierre just said, and we've had phenomenal conversations on the concept of past life and everything like this. And the more I study the unconscious mind, the subconscious mind, there's a reason why in this day and age we call the brain a supercomputer, because it is holding so much information to the point where we can't even fathom it. And the more studies come out, the more science and believe it or not, spirituality steps into this, you start to realize that your brain is actually holding information from millennia ago. And I'm only going to put that out there so you guys can really sit and wonder about that, but then actually step in and look it up, see what you can learn from it. But why I bring that up is because as much as I love studying that stuff, I also love studying scriptures. And I love studying the spirituality and faith and really seeing where all this plays a role in our life. And to hear everything you're saying, where it's scripture from the Bible, but scriptures from so many different cultures of the world are telling us to sit, to be here, to be in the presence. As I said in different videos before, you find the presence in the present moment. That's what surrender is. That's what being here and allowing is. Allowing God, allowing the universe, allowing your spirit to speak to you and guide you the steps of the way. The beauty of life is allowing us to take steps forward together. And I say that as in a physical together standpoint, but I also say that in called the Trinity. That's what that is. It's together with God, the universe, the Holy Spirit, whatever term you want to use for it, guiding you forward. That's the beauty of connecting the spiritual concept to what your goals are, to where you find yourself today, because you're going to find that voice is trying to talk to you a whole lot more. And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of life. And my mind's going to run with this stuff. But I'll pass it back off to you.
Yeah, it's what I would say is there are multiple different ways to talk about this one thing that everybody talks about, and there's multiple different paths to take to get to where it is that you need to go. And those different paths are going to take you to the lessons that you need to learn. You talked about something in a previous podcast where it's like, okay, well, you ask, I want to learn this, and then life will bring you to things that are going to lead you there if you listen to them. And again, they're going to be hard and whatnot, but you have to follow them.
Yeah.
Everybody's path is different. That's kind of, something that we're really talking about today. And, we started this off with age and the fact that older people will say, well, you're too young to understand this. And yes, to some degree there is, as you get older, you tend to understand things in a much better way, everything in life. But that is only if you're actually pursuing things in the way in which you want to go.
Yeah.
Because you can be stagnant for many years. And yes, again, age will bring you some sort of experience and an understanding of the world around you, but it can be amplified so much more if you are going towards that light that you are seeking.
Yeah.
And again, everybody's path is different. If you asked anybody before I did my trip, if you even asked myself, I don't know, I always, I always knew I wanted to do the long-term travel from when I was a young kid. I was in Greece and I was just sitting outside by myself, and it just came to me.
Yeah.
And I just felt as though that was always going to happen. And it took a lot of years to get to the point where I actually did it. And one thing I'd like to say is that people pull the parachute way too early on their dreams and in pursuit of the reality that they'd like to create for themselves and the loved ones around them. You have to really dig deep and go hard, and don't settle until you are on a path that you feel as though is the one that you have been looking for. I said it in another podcast, and this isn't, again, from a standpoint of perfection, but I am the man that I always wanted to become.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people can say that because you have to question the reality around you. You have to pursue things and make a change in yourself and the reality that you live to actually be able to say something like that. And I say it with pride because it was very difficult. I said in the last podcast, I'm 32 years old right now. For 32 years, I struggled trying to figure this out. And not that I haven't fully figured out, but I have worked towards that light that I was looking for, and I have found it, and now I can settle into the path that it was that I was actually looking for. Along that path in the future for myself, things will come and go. I will learn things as I am supposed to, but I will always do my best to listen to myself. And it becomes so much easier when you actually continually do so.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure for you as well, listen, as we both know, there's always times of doubt. There's always times where you're like, this whole thing is just crumbling right now, and I have no idea what to do about it. And yet, what for you personally, what are the kind of things that you do in those moments where things seem to be crumbling or too stagnant or anything? What are the things that you as Billy do to move forward?
Yeah. I'll say this, and this is probably something that's tougher for a lot of people to implement. And I trust. I don't trust the process. I trust that the path I'm on is what God's supposed to have me on. So I come back to trust and faith when things are stagnant, when I'm not getting the result that I want, because I believe wholeheartedly that I'm pursuing what I'm supposed to be pursuing in this life. Here's something. I always have to look at the past results to help me see what direction I'm going in the future. And past results for me and what I do in speaking and in coaching and whatnot, if things are stagnant right now, or things are crumbling, or I'm not getting the results I want, I go back to a moment where I was getting the results. I was helping people, the joy of helping. I come back to these positive emotion moments in my business and in life, whatever it is. And remember that. and I experience that again. I sit there, I'm like, all right, what did I do then that helped me receive the success that I'm looking for? All right, well, I did this, I implemented this, I started moving forward. So that allowed me for now in this stage of my life, when things are stagnant, I don't crumble anymore. I don't stress anymore. I know my game plan is to look back at it and be like, all right, if it worked out then, and sometimes if it worked out then, I didn't even change anything. I just allowed life, the universe, God, to bring in the support I needed to bring the results I needed. And back to faith and trust. So with me, I no longer look at the external results as what I'm searching for. And that could be a monetary value, that could be money, that could be people, that could be, sadly in this day and age, social media likes. We're impacted on an emotional level by every little thing in the world today. If I allow those situations to get inside me and affect the internal part of me, I will not be a happy person. I'll be an anxious person. I'll be a stressed person. I'll focus more on the stagnation. I'll focus more on all these things. But you can look throughout culture, you can look throughout history, you can look throughout scripture, you can look at the hieroglyphics if you wanted to. But everything is telling you, one, this too shall pass if you trust and you have faith at where you're going. And when you have trust and you have faith and you come back to those standpoints, that means that your mind is now focused on the greater outcome. If your mind is then focused on the greater outcome, the beauty of the universal laws that we live by, even unconsciously, is that the law of attraction and law of resonance come into play. I know I'm going really deep with this, but law of attraction, we've heard that. You got the book The Secret out there, that's manifestation, all these things come together. What you focus on becomes or comes into reality. All right. Well, if I'm going to focus on stagnation, not operating out of trust and faith anymore, I'm looking at all the negativity around me. If I'm going to focus on that, law of the universe tells me that I'm going to get more of it. I don't want that. I want to experience more joy. So I look back at all the positive results I had, which brings in more positive results in the future. Law of resonance is the only one I'm going to say, is there's more laws out there. If I am operating at that greater level of emotion, the joy, the love, the peace, the happiness, all these great things that, if you've been to a seminar, we teach this in our workshops and everything like this. If you're operating at that level of emotion, energy and motion, your joy, you're resonating at that energy, which sends a frequency and an energy out to the rest of the universe to bring in and attract in more of what you resonate at, aka joy, aka success, aka positivity. All based off of why I love the mind so much, because it's your supercomputer in between your ears if you literally start to use it the right way. So to answer your question, Peter, in a very elongated way, I always come back to faith. I always come back to trust, because those areas for me keep me and pull me up the ladder of negativity into positivity. And if I'm looking at my situation from a positive standpoint, I will forever find a positive outlet to go down. I will forever find the positive moment to sit in the presence, and I will forever find what I'm searching for. That's a very elongated way to say that, but sometimes it's simple.
I like everything that you said, and I agree with everything that you said. And one thing that I'd like to add to that is just truly coming to the practice of living authentically in your life is something that is very important. I think the majority of people live inauthentically in this life right now. I think that's why society is where it's at. And the practice of authentically being yourself and showing yourself to others and working through the things in your life that do not allow you to live authentically is one of the most important practices, and you can authentically be going through it, right? 100%. You can authentically be observing the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows, being in a low and authentically being like, something, I'm going through it right now. But sure, this is where I'm at. And to your point of optimistic thinking, you have two choices. You can be optimistic or pessimistic about the future. You can be optimistic or pessimistic about anything in your life. It is your choice. It is a practice to move towards one way versus the other. Yep. And it's amazing when you actually do live optimistically. You see the light at the end of the tunnel. You see that it's possible to get through, and maybe you don't exactly know how in this moment, but you know that if you just keep chipping away, and just doing what you're doing, that eventually that answer is going to come.
Yep.
Those periods of stagnancy, those periods of inauthenticity, they are so important to your growth because you begin to feel what it feels like to be inauthentic, what it feels like to be stagnant, and you say to yourself that those are the things that you try to move away from. And it takes time.
Yep.
Everybody's journey is different. That period of stagnancy can take a long time to go through. And yet it is something that is so important to practice in your everyday life.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I love that. You know, I'm gonna start to close this episode out right now, but to kind of close out that idea is I've had so many moments in my life where call it stagnation, call it depression, call it anxiety, call it worry, call it every emotion on the spectrum. But the beauty of that is, you know, I sit in those zones and I'm like this. I know there's a way out of this. I know life is not always going to be. I can remember going through a terrible breakup, and I can remember being so depressed, and my mom asking me, literally, Bill, I just hope that you're going to come out of this. I can remember being so in pain in that moment. I stopped for a moment being in pain. I was like, what? Of course I'm going to come out of this. Like, it sucks right now, but I'm going to come out of this. And she's like, okay. And then, we continued. I went back to my mopiness. But in that one moment, it showed me, I already knew that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. I knew what I was feeling was going to end at some point. And for at least a little moment in that one confusion that I said to her, I was already out of the mopiness. I left mopiness for a time and went to this. That authentic negativity that I was in stopped, and I'm not going to go with it. I'm going to be here and answer the question, and then I'm going to go back to it. And there's a video on YouTube. We did this message where it's essentially this way. We carry so much negativity in a bag with us. And eventually I got to a point in my life where I was just carrying this negativity around me. And then I'd put it down. I'd be there, be in a session with someone, be with a client or a workshop, whatever it is. And I'd fully present, fully authentically myself. Finish it. And I'd go and I'd pick the bag and the mopiness back up and I'd carry it with me the rest of where I go. And then eventually get to a point where, what the heck am I carrying this around for? And I was done with depression in that one moment. I realized I was in more control of honestly, I was in more control of every single moment of my life because every moment is authentic. And we have to realize that the authentic emotions we feel, every single one of them, negativity, depression, anxiety, all the way up to love, joy, peace, and happiness. We've done an incredible podcast on the fact that we need every single one of those emotions.
Yeah.
But it is our choice which ones we want to carry with us every single moment and which ones we want to put down. And I purposely choose, no matter how stagnation is, no matter how results are booming, whatever it is, I will forever keep a joyful, peaceful, and loving state. In the last podcast we did, I was explaining to you before we even hopped on, I got in a car accident like a week prior. And, it is what it is. But the beauty of that is I got rear-ended. The beauty of that is it was a lesson to me to show me how far I've come because I got rear-ended. I was not at fault by any means. And I got out of the car and I went to check on the woman that hit me. I go, hey, you okay? And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. I was listening to the music. I wasn't paying attention. And at first I was like, all right, but I sit there and, we did the entire project. Hey, thanks for the information, blah, 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 handled all that kind of stuff, the reports and everything. And so the beauty is I left that not upset by any means, laughing because that woman was more shocked, not over the accident that happened, not over the fact that she hit me. She was more shocked over the fact that I handled it in such a peaceful state. Why? Because I carry the authenticity of peace, love, joy, everything I've built myself up to in an optimistic pursuit, but at the same time, it has become the norm. I think that's the beauty of life. You find your authentic self when you operate at the higher levels because you're operating out of love, you're operating out of peace, you're operating out of joy, which are the greatest emotions you could feel in life. The more you start to find that version of you is because you've listened to that still small voice that we've heard and we've been talking about from the second we start recording. The more you listen to that, the more you live in this peaceful state where people want to be around you. Coming back to what I said earlier with the law of attraction and resonance, if you're operating and resonating at a peaceful standpoint, you attract in more opportunities to be peaceful, to show love, to show joy, to experience love, to experience joy. All of these areas that make up us as humans comes together because that's at our core. I know it's a very long-ended way to close this out, but that's the all this stemmed from me asking you about age,
Yeah.
and the generalization of the world when it comes to age and how we don't want young people to take chances. I could dive so deep into that because if you're telling someone to not take a chance on himself, did you ever take a chance on yourself? And if you did, why did you wait so long to do it? All right, well, different generations go through different standpoints. I will never doubt that whatsoever. But with everything that we have at our disposal today in technology and books and learning and so much out there, why would we ever sway someone from not taking a chance on themselves now, no matter how old they are? And then you have situations where, this is the last fact I'll say, you got situations where there's like 8-year-old kids graduating at the top of their class in college.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why? Because they showed some skill set and then were backed. Someone said, we're going to go. You seem intelligent. We're going to take a chance on you. And then now those kids are at MIT and doing those incredible things. That's because they were surrounded by people that didn't look at age as just a number. And I work in with so many people, but a lot of people come to me with fitness goals because I'm a big gym person and everything like that. And they all go, I'm too old to do that. I'm like, who said that? Why can't you? Why can't you grow that? Why can't you grow the muscle? Why can't you do this? Well, I'm too old. Age isn't just a number. Yeah, but if you're living by the definition of how I'm too old to do this, you've already said I will never do this. Throw that out the window. I don't know how young you are. I don't care how young you are. You start. I don't care how old you are. Start. As I said earlier, pick the ball back up again, or at least teach the young person how to dribble the ball. It's the beauty of it. But Peter, I'm gonna pass it off to you. Let's close this thing out. I know I've kept people pretty long with this one because I find so much energy in this. But give us your closing thoughts on this age, lack of belief, generalization concept that we've been discussing today.
If you're a young person listening to this or watching this, your number one goal and priority should be to culminate the voice that is inside of you. Find ways to listen to it. Find ways to understand what it's trying to tell you through the emotions that you hold inside of yourself. And if you're an older person listening to this, again, it's never too late. I know people who started over at 60, 65, 70, and it completely changes the aura that they have because they are starting something new. Doesn't matter how old you are. If you have made sacrifices in your life to build a better life for your family and the next generation, good for you. It's your time to shine now since you've already done that. It's your time to pursue the things you wanted to pursue and fulfill those dreams for yourself. You put them on the back burner for a reason, and now it's your time to understand that you have done the things that you can for your family and for the next generation, which is the most noble thing you can possibly do. And now it's time to step into the things that you put on that back burner and just go and do them. Go and start this process or continue this process with a new light and acceptance and understanding that you accomplished something that is so important to your bloodline. And now it's time for you to take advantage of that and breathe in this fresh air of pursuing your personal legend. And I will go back to, I would like to say, anybody who has not read The Alchemist yet, go ahead and read it. It's a fictional book. The journey is amazing. The ideas behind that fictional story are so true in reality. And may you read that book and then go and begin to pursue your personal legend and allow that to show you the ups and downs that you are about to experience and go live them with a full heart. We are here for a reason. Everybody has one thing that they're supposed to give to the world. And it's up to you to figure out what that is and then go and actually do it.
I love that. That's a perfect period to put on this. Guys, everything we've said to you today is something that we both have experienced, something we see in everyone. That's why I don't want this message to come to you as maybe you were someone that told someone not to pursue their dream. Maybe you were, maybe you were the voice that helped spark someone. Maybe you were the voice that helped spark yourself. Maybe someone sparked you at some point in your life. I want you to sit on these thoughts. I really want you to, because I know maybe you are someone that achieved what was on your heart and you can set another goal. Maybe, or maybe you're living out the joy of having accomplished all this and achieved this and fulfilled whatever is the calling of your life. And then now you get to see wherever the road leads. The beauty of this life is that it's ever changing and it's always leading us to something more. So if we have that perspective, what is the more that is on you that you're meant to lead to? Something to think on. So Peter, I thank you so much for being here, brother. Tell them where they can find you.
Travelingteacher.com. If you need any kind of educational help, or if you just want to chat about, anything, travelingteacher.com. You can email me. Instagram is @travelingteacher. And if you want to learn more about my motorcycle trip and the thing that ultimately brought me to this podcast, and to the things that I have in my life, that's at peter.panopoulos1.
Mm.
And yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course,
I really
brother.
appreciate it. I do enjoy these conversations. It can be difficult to have these conversations regularly, and I think that this is definitely an outlet for me that is very enjoyable, and I do enjoy that we will continue these.
Yeah. Oh no, I love having you here, man. That's why I keep having you as a recurring guest, and as I said before, recurring host. That's why I want people to understand, look Peter up, because as you heard in this conversation today, it's like we both can go very deep on certain topics and we can throw them back to each other. The beauty of that is it builds a collective information, consciousness, if you want to call it that you can then absorb. There's so much swirling in this one video, this one podcast we did, and there's other episodes out there with Peter. But when we get together, it creates this collective that you then can become a part of. And I want you to become a part of it. I want you to grow with everything we talk about. Even if in the course of this, however long this has been, an hour-long video, whatever it's at right now, in the entire course of this, a lot of this could have gone over your head. But at minute 15, you caught on to something where it's like, oh, wait a second, I got to go back and listen to that. That was for you. The beauty of having us bounce ideas off of each other and create these collective dialogues is that there's so much sitting here for the viewer, for the listener to take and run with. Because I'm learning from Peter in this one moment as much as Peter's learning from me in this one moment. But the beauty of that is if we're in this state, you then become a part of it. That's why I want Peter to keep coming back on the show, because it helps me out, but it helps you out too. So Peter will continue to be a recurring guest and host on this show, guys. But I thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, I know there was a lot in this message. I want you to rewind it or go back to certain points that stuck out to you and really absorb it. Find out what that is on your heart. Find out what sparks you, has inspired you, or will inspire you to take that next step for yourself. It's the goal of why we do this, to create tools and techniques to help you move forward, to shift your perspective to a greater state, to help you move forward. Because the beauty of life is that we're all moving to some great place for you, for me, for everyone. But it's on us to really create that. Let's create together. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Please like this message, hit that thumbs up on below. And if at any moment in any of these deep concepts we touched on today, someone popped in your mind that has a clear-cut sign to you, is share it to them. Not to help Peter or myself, not to even spread this channel, but to help them with what they might be going through. You might not even know what they're facing, but if they popped in your head, that's a clear-cut sign that might need exactly what you heard. So please share it to that person. And please subscribe to Once a Week if you have not already. It is almost the end of the year, and we are getting very close to 10,000 subscribers. Never thought that was going to happen, but, keep pursuing the road, trust and faith, like I said. And the joy is that you start to see the goal come. It's not the end of the tunnel. I don't even know if there's a light at the end of the tunnel for Once a Week. But the beauty of that is that we're getting better every single week, and more people are receiving help from us. So please subscribe if you have not already. Go check Peter's links out. It's going to be in the description of this video. It's also going to be in the credits that are about to roll. And if you're looking for a coach who can step in and help in these areas discussed today, head to BillyGLifeCoaching.com. You can set up a free call with me, and I'll be right there for you. If you're looking for a speaker to come in and touch on these deep concepts to help in a personal development, self-improvement way, guys, go to BillyGLifeCoaching.com as well and check out what we bring to companies and what we bring to schools. Because the more we all learn these deep concepts and understand them and implement them in our own lives, the more we can grow and completely change the next stage for that matter. But I thank you for being here. Peter, thank you, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Have a good one, guys.
You know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it a back day. Yeah, I got game, got in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it Turnpike Miles. Yeah, it's Buku signing on, John to the Hancock.